you're telling me that this was a real investigation when the White House was, while the FBI was investigating, say he should be nominated, mocking Christine Ford, and they wrapped it up in 5 days, not even using all the time that they were given. Bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. And you're telling me that the Democratic Party is the party of the working people, when one of its senators voted for a man accused of sexual assault by multiple women and sexual misconduct by multiple women, a man who, I talked to him and he told me he would take into account the human impact of repealing the Affordable Care Act. Joe Manchin knows Brett Kavanaugh and these Republicans can care less about the human impact. You know what Joe Manchin cares about? The human impact on Joe Manchin if he loses re-election in West Virginia. That's what he cares about. And that's why he voted yes. Because if he would have voted no, Trump would have used it against him. He would have barnstormed West Virginia to vote him out. Because Joe Manchin is, I believe, up right now by 4 or 5 points. And that could quickly go away if he would have voted against Brett Kavanaugh. So Joe Manchin is a coward. Got to give credit to Heidi Heitkamp, who I think is corrupt on all other accounts, but at least she voted no in this instance. But Brett Kavanaugh will be confirmed. Jeff Flake has said he will vote for confirmation. Susan Collins has said he will vote for confirmation. And Joe Manchin has said he will vote for confirmation. Lisa Murkowski was the only Republican to say she will not vote for his confirmation, while Joe Manchin is the only Democrat who says he will. I think there's another element here. Bigger than just Brett Kavanaugh. When you have in political parties, because we only have one party in this country, Democrats and Republicans might as well be the same. One's a little better on social issues and cultural issues, but economically they're both corrupt. They're for the 1%, they're for their donors, and that's it. But when the entire U.S. government is predominantly old white men, it's not such a coincidence that you get decisions that end up protecting older white men. It's not a coincidence that Mitch McConnell rammed this through. It's not a coincidence that Chuck Grassley rammed this through. It's not a coincidence that Orrin Hatch, who might as well be a dinosaur, rammed this through. That's why it's so important that so many women are running this year. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have more younger men running. I'm not trying to be sexist. But you cannot have a government for the people that are represented predominantly by one type of person, old white men who grew up in a different time, who grew up in a time when maybe doing certain things to women, it was more appropriate. It was more, that's just how things were. This process was doomed from the start because you literally have old grumpy white men making the decisions. Thank you, Neilon. $5 says progressive for life. But I don't want to hear about the FBI investigation. It wasn't an investigation. It was a total sham. And Susan Collins knows that. But you want to know something? Really what this came down to is, did Susan Collins, for the rest of her career in life, want to get the scorn from women and sexual assault victims, or get the scorn of the entire conservative movement in this country? And she chose women and sexual assault survivors. That's what it comes down to. Because she's a smart woman. So for her to say, she used the term fairness, if she thinks it's fair that an investigation ignored dozens of people, and by the way, those dozens of people who would have possibly been talked to could have ended up proving Kavanaugh's innocence. I am not one who says he's guilty right away. I wanted to see all the evidence. That's why we need an investigation. I don't believe in mob mentality. We shouldn't bring down any man just because women deserve to be believed. Not every situation is the same. I am inclined to trust women, and if a woman makes an accusation, I am inclined to believe her. But with that said, I want to also see the facts, the specifics, the context, who was involved, where it happened, and all of those information. I don't want to borrow from Ronald Reagan, but I believe you should trust women, but you should also verify it. So the bottom line is this, because I want to move on to Laquan McDonald. The bottom line is this. This was doomed from the start because you have old, grumpy white men making decisions about women, about what constitutes assault, what doesn't, what constitutes misconduct by a man, what doesn't. And if you believe that the FBI had full reign to do whatever the hell they want, I have a bridge to sell you. I have a bridge to sell you. And take it from me, because, I've already spoken about it, and I've already talked about it in the past. I'm familiar with this topic. I had an accusation against me. It was false, and I've already explained it months ago. Thankfully, people that have looked into it and looked at the facts know it's false. But I do believe anyone accused is entitled to an actual investigation so people could look into it. If you're actually innocent, you should want it to be investigated, and you have nothing to hide. But I also believe if there are multiple women making accusations, and if there are dozens of people that might be able to corroborate what the women are saying, you can't make a decision until you speak with all of those players involved. Period, end of story. Period, end of story. So I am pretty dismayed at this. I think putting aside the accusations against him by the women, I think he shouldn't have been on the Supreme Court to begin with. He doesn't believe Roe versus Wade. He has put in writing it's open to interpretation. He also, frankly, doesn't believe that a president could be prosecuted. Well, that's dangerous, particularly for this president, but any president. He's going to be on the Supreme Court for 30 years. What if a Democratic president has broken the law? Well, according to this guy, the president can do whatever he wants, legal or illegal. And I think Susan Collins is extremely naive if she thinks that he will take in, or Manchin thinks, he'll take into account the human effect. The human effect. When it comes to possibly voting on decisions that could repeal Obamacare or things like that. Let me know what you think. I think I know what you think, but the super chat is going. Feel free to leave a couple bucks. As a reminder, the GoFundMe is almost at $9,000. So if you wanna contribute, let us know. Before I move on to Laquan McDonald, my business partner Jen has just walked into the building. She, I believe, is a woman, so I would like to get her opinion. Come over to the microphone, Jen.
Well, the investigation was a complete sham. They didn't even interview Kavanaugh or Blasey Ford, and it's ridiculous. It's just, it's like it doesn't matter that it seems very true that the facts line up that he obviously did this. I mean, due process is important and all that, but there's no chance here. This FBI investigation was not an investigation. It was a total sham. There are so many people pulling the strings in the background of this, including the corporate media, including, wealthy people who are funneling money into Kavanaugh's nomination and him getting on the court. Like, the amount of money behind this, it doesn't matter what the truth is. What matters to these people is that is this message for me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, what matters to these people is that he's confirmed no matter what. It doesn't matter. Thank you. Tommy Tahifi Bayless says, Jen is a woman. That is true.
And Tommy Tahifi Bayless is currently in the hospital.
He's very sick.
Yes.
$5 for having Jen on the show. Thank you, guys. Yeah, so I'm really upset by this. I'm upset by Manchin. I'm upset by Collins. I'm upset by, well, everyone, except those who stood their ground. I mean, Flake did what Flake flaked, as we knew he would. And it's disheartening. It's absolutely gross. As a woman, I want to be heard. I've been sexually assaulted. And I feel for these women who have come forward, from Blasey Ford to Ramirez, is that right? And then Julie Swetnick. Oh, I have a new hat now. Yeah, sorry if I seem out of it. I was at a very long meeting, so I'm kind of in la la land. And I'm catching up on the news. Like, Jordan was texting me and telling me what was going on, and then I've been reading tweets and things. But I don't think I'm surprised. In fact, no, I'm definitely not surprised. But I'm discouraged, and now we're going to have this crazy person on the Supreme Court for until he dies. And for one thing, another thing is that they came out, the association of whoever runs lawyery, judgy things, came out and said that they're doing an investigation about his temperament. Like, they don't even seem to think he's fit to be on the stand. It's ridiculous. There's no positives to Kavanaugh being on the stand. He should have never been nominated. And once it became clear what kind of person he was, including the sexual assault allegations, including his temperament, who, by the way, if you are into corporate media like Jordan, and we're watching Morning Joe this morning, they played a clip a couple times showing that even Kavanaugh would disagree with having Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court because he doesn't have the temperament. He's way too partisan. It's awful. It's terrible.